Every day, millions of conversations take place around the world. Friends share stories, employees explain mistakes, politicians answer questions, partners make promises, strangers exchange information. And in many of those conversations, someone isn't telling the complete truth. But here's the strange part. Most people imagine deception as something dramatic. They picture a nervous person sweating under pressure, unable to maintain eye contact, constantly fidgeting, desperately trying to hide a lie. Reality is far more complicated. Psychologists, behavioral scientists, and investigators have spent decades studying deception. What they discovered challenged many of our assumptions about what lying actually looks like. The biggest surprise? There is no single body language signal that proves someone is lying. No magical gesture. No universal tell. No guaranteed sign. Yet despite that, people often reveal subtle clues when they are uncomfortable, hiding information, or struggling to maintain a false narrative. The challenge is learning how to recognize these signals without jumping to conclusions, because sometimes a person looks nervous because they're lying, and sometimes they look nervous because they're telling the truth. Understanding the difference could change how you view conversations forever. Today, we're exploring 10 body language signs that may suggest someone is hiding the truth, what psychology says about them, and why human deception is far more fascinating than most people realize. Some of these signs are incredibly subtle. Others happen right in front of us every day. And the final one may completely change how you interpret people's behavior. If you're fascinated by psychology, human behavior, and the hidden forces that influence our everyday lives, make sure to subscribe and let us know in the comments where you're watching from. Let's begin. For centuries, humans have searched for reliable ways to detect lies. Ancient societies even created bizarre tests. In some cultures, suspects were forced to hold rice in their mouths while being questioned. The belief was simple: fear would dry the mouth, making it difficult to spit out the rice. Others believed that avoiding eye contact was the ultimate sign of dishonesty. Even today, many people still believe this. Imagine a job interview. A candidate glances away while answering a difficult question. Immediately, some observers become suspicious. What are they hiding? But psychologists discovered something surprising. Many honest people avoid eye contact when thinking. Meanwhile, experienced liars often maintain intense eye contact, specifically because they know others associate eye contact with honesty. In other words, the signal people trust most may be one of the least reliable. And that wasn't the only misconception. Researchers found that most people perform only slightly better than chance when trying to detect deception. Think about that. Despite thousands of years of social interaction, humans are surprisingly poor lie detectors. Why? Because deception doesn't produce one universal behavior. Instead, it creates stress, cognitive effort, emotional conflict, and fear of being discovered. Those internal pressures often leak out through body language, but not always in the ways people expect. And that realization would lead scientists toward a much deeper understanding of deception. What they discovered next changed everything. In the 20th century, psychologists began studying deception scientifically. Researchers interviewed suspects, observed conversations, analyzed videotapes, and conducted controlled experiments. One of the most important discoveries was that lying is mentally demanding. When someone tells the truth, they simply recall information. When someone lies, they often have to create information, remember what they've already said, monitor their behavior, anticipate reactions, and avoid contradictions. It's like running multiple computer programs at the same time. The brain suddenly has much more work to do. This increased mental load can affect posture, facial expressions, voice patterns, and body movement. But researchers uncovered another crucial insight. The most useful clues rarely come from isolated gestures. Instead, they emerge from clusters of behavior. A person crossing their arms means almost nothing by itself. A person crossing their arms, tightening their jaw, touching their neck repeatedly, and becoming unusually rigid during a sensitive topic may tell a different story. Context matters. Baseline behavior matters. Patterns matter. This is why professional investigators rarely rely on a single sign. They look for changes, sudden shifts, unexpected reactions, moments where behavior no longer matches the situation. And that's where our first hidden signal appears. Sign 1. Sudden changes in behavior. One of the strongest indicators isn't a specific gesture. It's a change. Imagine speaking with a friend who appears relaxed and comfortable. Then, a particular topic comes up. Suddenly their posture stiffens. Their smile disappears. Their speaking rhythm changes. Something shifted. Psychologists call this a behavioral deviation from baseline. The key isn't what they're doing. It's that they're doing something different than before. Investigators often pay close attention to these transitions because they can reveal emotional discomfort. Have you ever noticed someone completely change their demeanor after a specific question? What would you have thought? Sign 2. Excessive stillness. Many people assume liars become restless. Sometimes the opposite happens. When individuals fear revealing themselves, they may unconsciously reduce movement. Their body becomes unusually controlled, almost frozen. Researchers sometimes refer to this as behavioral inhibition. The person becomes so focused on appearing believable that natural movement decreases. Hands stop gesturing. Shoulders remain rigid. Expressions appear rehearsed. Yet the truth was far stranger. In many cases, excessive control can be just as revealing as nervous movement. Because authentic behavior is rarely perfectly managed. Sign 3. Touching the face or neck. You've probably seen this countless times. Someone rubs their neck, touches their nose, covers their mouth, scratches their face. Popular culture often treats these behaviors as proof of lying. Psychology paints a more nuanced picture. These gestures are often called self-soothing behaviors. When people experience stress or discomfort, they may unconsciously touch areas rich in nerve endings. The neck is especially common. It can help regulate anxiety and provide temporary comfort. But before we get to the next signal, remember something important. Stress doesn't equal deception. A truthful person under pressure may display the exact same behaviors. That's why context remains critical. Sign 4. Delayed reactions. Imagine asking someone a direct question. Did you take the money? For a brief moment, nothing happens. Then comes the surprise. Then the denial. Then the explanation. That tiny delay can sometimes indicate increased mental processing. The brain may be constructing a response rather than retrieving a memory. Investigators often pay attention to timing because authentic reactions tend to flow naturally. Manufactured reactions sometimes arrive a fraction too late. However, this wasn't the most shocking part. Sometimes the delay appears not before the answer, but before the emotion itself. And that's where things become fascinating. Sign 5. Emotions that don't match. A smile appears. But the eyes remain cold. A person claims to be upset, yet their face shows little emotional engagement. Researchers have long studied emotional incongruence. This occurs when verbal communication and nonverbal communication tell different stories. The mismatch doesn't necessarily indicate deception. but it may indicate internal conflict. Human emotions typically work together. When they don't, psychologists become interested. Because somewhere beneath the surface, something may not be aligning. Sign 6. Increased blink rate. The average person blinks naturally throughout the day. But stress, anxiety, and cognitive effort can sometimes increase blinking frequency. Several studies have observed changes in blink patterns during deceptive situations. Why? Because lying can place additional demands on attention and emotional regulation. Yet researchers would later discover something even more surprising. Some individuals do the opposite. Their blink rate decreases as concentration intensifies. Once again, there is no universal pattern. Only clues. Sign 7. Lip compression. A fleeting gesture, easy to miss. A person presses their lips together, perhaps for only a second. Psychologists often interpret this as emotional restraint. It can signal a desire to withhold information, suppress emotion, or prevent further disclosure. Think of the body as a system constantly balancing expression and control. Sometimes emotions want to escape. Sometimes the mind wants to keep them contained. Lip compression may appear during that struggle. Would you have recognized this signal if it happened in front of you? Sign 8. Defensive barriers. A coffee cup, a purse, folded arms, a laptop, a folder held tightly against the chest. Humans frequently create physical barriers when feeling vulnerable or threatened. These objects become psychological shields. During uncomfortable conversations, people may unconsciously place objects between themselves and others. Again, this doesn't prove deception, but it may reveal discomfort with the topic being discussed. And sometimes that discomfort is exactly where hidden truths reside. Sign 9. Inconsistent head movements. Someone says yes, but their head subtly shakes no. Someone verbally agrees, yet their body appears hesitant. These contradictions can be surprisingly revealing. Behavioral experts often watch for moments when verbal and physical communication diverge, because genuine thoughts and emotions don't always remain perfectly synchronized. And that's when everything changed. Because the final sign isn't about movement at all. It's about absence. Sign 10. Missing natural detail. When people tell true stories, they often recall sensory details naturally. Sounds, smells, unexpected moments, small imperfections. Deceptive stories may sometimes feel strangely polished, overly structured, overly rehearsed. The body language associated with this can appear unusually controlled and predictable, almost as though the person is performing rather than remembering. This doesn't guarantee dishonesty, but it often attracts attention from investigators, psychologists, and interview specialists. And understanding why leads directly into the darker side of human behavior. Body language knowledge can be used for understanding, but it can also be used for manipulation. Con artists understand this well. Some scammers intentionally mimic trustworthy body language. They smile confidently, maintain eye contact, speak calmly, appear relaxed. They know most people rely heavily on first impressions, and first impressions are powerful. Cult leaders have often exploited similar principles. Many project certainty during uncertainty, confidence during chaos, authority during confusion. Followers may interpret these signals as evidence of competence. But confidence and honesty are not the same thing. History repeatedly demonstrates this. Some of the most persuasive individuals ever studied were also highly deceptive. Their success came not from truthfulness, but from understanding human psychology. The next discovery would challenge everything experts believed about deception. Because the most dangerous deceivers aren't always nervous. They're comfortable, and that makes them much harder to detect. Consider high-profile fraud investigations. When investigators review interviews, they rarely focus on one gesture. Instead, they search for patterns. A suspect becomes defensive at specific questions. Behavior changes during certain topics. Narratives become inconsistent. Emotional responses seem disconnected from events being described. One famous lesson from criminal investigations is that deception often reveals itself through accumulation. Not one clue, many clues. The same principle appears in everyday life. Imagine a business meeting. A manager presents impressive results. Everyone seems convinced. Yet one colleague notices something unusual. Questions about numbers trigger visible discomfort. Explanations become vague. Details disappear. Months later, financial irregularities emerge. The warning signs were there. Not obvious, not dramatic, but present. Relationships provide another example. A partner's routine changes. Communication patterns shift. Body language becomes inconsistent. Suddenly, conversations feel different. Sometimes these signals reveal deception. Other times they reveal stress, depression, fear, or personal struggles. And that's precisely why interpretation requires caution. Body language offers clues, not verdicts. Have you ever experienced a situation where something felt off, long before you discovered the truth? Let us know in the comments below. Because many people report noticing subtle signs before understanding what they meant. And psychology offers an explanation for that feeling. Humans are constantly processing information below conscious awareness. Tiny inconsistencies, micro-behaviors, pattern deviations. Sometimes intuition is simply the brain recognizing signals before conscious reasoning catches up. But even intuition can be wrong, which brings us to the most important lesson of all. If there's one thing psychology teaches us about deception, it's humility. No body language sign guarantees someone is lying. Not crossed arms, not eye contact, not blinking, not fidgeting, not any single behavior. The goal isn't to become a human lie detector. The goal is to become a better observer. Notice patterns. Notice changes. Notice inconsistencies. Ask questions. Seek evidence. Remain curious. The most accurate observers rarely rush to judgment. Instead, they gather information. They compare behavior across situations. They recognize uncertainty. And they understand that people are complicated. Someone may appear deceptive because they're anxious. Someone may appear confident because they've practiced. Someone may avoid eye contact because they're shy. Someone may maintain eye contact because they're lying. Reality is rarely simple. Yet learning these signals still provides tremendous value, not because they reveal absolute truth, but because they encourage deeper awareness. Awareness of what people communicate without words. Awareness of emotional states. Awareness of hidden discomfort. Awareness of social dynamics most people overlook. And perhaps most importantly, awareness of our own assumptions. Because sometimes the greatest deception isn't the lie someone else tells. It's the story we immediately tell ourselves. And recognizing that possibility may be one of the most valuable psychological skills of all. Long after the conversation ends, the decision is made, or the moment passes, the psychology behind it remains. Invisible, powerful, often unnoticed. Yet these hidden forces shape relationships, careers, reputations, societies, and sometimes even the course of history itself. Every glance, every gesture, every choice, every interaction. Each one tells a story about who we are, what we believe, and the unseen forces influencing our behavior. And perhaps the most remarkable part is that these forces affect all of us, every single day, because behind every action lies a hidden motive. Behind every decision lies a psychological process. And behind every human story lies a deeper truth waiting to be understood. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, please like the video, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Which of these body language signs surprised you the most? And until next time, keep questioning what lies beneath the surface of human behavior.